So you can turn it on and off.
But there's a lot of money flowing. Yeah. Ethereum has probably the best balance of everything. But then you also have, I would say, like Sui, for example, is a VC chain, which means venture capitalist, right? So you have all these rich people putting in money. A lot of people in crypto don't like that. But because this cycle, there's not that much retail, not that much average everyday buyers in the market, you have the rich people control this market this cycle.
And there's a reason for that, because the Federal Reserve, when they started increasing interest rates in January of 2022, one of the things that Jerome was really worried about was the American savings rate. Anytime like when the 2008 crash happened, Americans were like, oh shit, they tighten their belts up and their savings rate goes up to like 20, 30, 40%. They start saving money again. And then the people at the Fed are like, what the fuck? You guys are supposed to be spending all your fucking money, your consumers. And so one of their main thing was as they increased the interest rates, they were watching, because basically what happened is Americans got to at 30% after COVID. Savings rate. Normally it's 2% or less, which is terrible. That's why, like, when you go like, the average American has less than $500 in savings account.
We're printing money out the woozah.
Yeah, so people had savings from like taking the PPP loans or just investing, or everyone just basically just ordering shit from their house because they're stuck at home. A ton of money was made during COVID, right? Especially if you had a business and you were smart. This is why
interest rates for homes were literally 2 to 3%.
Nothing.
Yeah. Like it was nuts, dude. It was a crazy time. I don't think we'll ever see interest rates that low again on homes.
Historically, that was insanity. Like we were at 0% from like basically 2011 to 2021. 0. That's insane. So we had over a decade of no interest rates, basically. Sure, we had like, 0.0, like a quarter of a percent, and then the bank adds 3% or 2% depending on your credit score. But basically, there was no extra vig on it. That's why, like, us being at the current interest rate, that's why, like, you try to get a house loan, it's 7%.
Yeah, it's kind of high now.
It's really high.
I closed on a deal a few weeks ago. I think it closed around 8 or 9.
Yeah, but you buy points off of it, right?
I do buy points off it if it makes sense. But yeah, I mean, then it gets to a point of no return. But yeah, I mean, I remember I was buying houses in like 2021 at like 2 or 3% interest rate, man, 4%.
Right.
And I was like, holy shit, but. It just sucks because now it's so high now that like it's kind of made the real estate market stagnate, especially here in Miami.
Well, and then everybody's saying by the time you get the boomers, basically croaking, right?
Yeah,
they're all going to be either selling or forced selling from their inheritances, as well, which could bring real estate, into like kind of a funk into the end of the 2030s, because most of the boomer money is going to be basically turned over to the millennials from 2029 to 2035. Yeah. So that period there is going to be a shift where there might be more supply than demand.
Well, also with inflation, they can't afford to upkeep the property.
Right.
Their money has kind of slowed down or stopped. And to maintain that household, you got to maintain the property, the grass, everything. Yeah. They can't afford it, so they're going to sell.
Yep. I mean, and there's a global problem too. I mean, like, I'm not going to shit on the boomers all day because you obviously could, but but basically after World War II, everyone had a bunch of babies. That's the boomers, right?
Yeah.
And now they're all in retirement age. They're all 62 and a half years old. They're all whether they're getting their pension from whatever Europe over here to America, the entire Western world basically has a ton of boomers. So does China, but the problem is that most of these boomers outside of America didn't have enough kids. So there's basically like. In America, the boomers made enough millennials to be a replacement generation. I think like millennials are like 105% of the boomer generation. So we're like 5% bigger millennials, right? But in Japan or in China or in most of Europe, they're only 40 to 50% of the population. So let's just say there's 100 million boomers in Europe. They got 50 million millennials. How are the 50 million millennials and the 30 million Zoomers going to pay for 100 million boomers? That's that's why there's all this weird global shit with the banks and the money, is that they're printing money in order to kind of upkeep and keep the stock markets across the planet from collapsing and the bond markets from collapsing, because these boomers are going to start, instead of putting money in, now they're starting to take out, they're not cashing out all their stocks, but they're taking out 2, 3, 4, 5%. Hopefully you don't listen to Dave Ramsey and take out 7% a year.